This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is the quintessential platform for creating your image and expanding your reach across the web. Set yourself apart with a gorgeous website, talk to your fan base, and market anything from your goods, works, and even your time. Hey everyone, Crisis here. Today I've got a bit of a kind of hypothetical, what if kind of video, but also a versus power scaling type of video. Growing up with the Marvel movies before the MCU, imagining that movies like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and all of the pre-Marvel Studios Marvel movies all took place in a shared universe. The prompt I have today is, if that was a shared universe that existed, what would happen if Thanos, in a similar quest as his MCU counterpart, came to that Earth? So we're going to kind of talk about how that would play out in this hypothetical universe, as well as then pivoting towards a more power scaling centered approach and see truthfully how would that play out. So we're kind of going to consider that Thanos, the Black Order, the Outriders are all as strong as they are in the MCU. And then for all of the heroes, we're going to be featuring characters from the X-Men movie franchise set after Days of Future Past but before Logan, the Raimi Spider-Man movies post Spider-Man 3 but before Tobey Maguire learns about the multiverse, post Daredevil and Elektra, post Blade 3, post Ghost Rider 2, post Hulk 2003, and post Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer. To begin the story, after Rise of the Silver Surfer, with a failed invasion from Galactus, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four took it upon himself to install sensors around the Earth to detect threats from outer space. Now, one day he does find that there is a giant alien craft stationed outside of the solar system moving towards the planet Earth. He then communicates with his colleague, Professor Charles Xavier, who we see in Dark Phoenix that Professor X in the revised timeline will go out of his way to sort of rub shoulders with the best and brightest of humanity. However, up until now, he's never wanted humans or even superpowered humans to risk their lives to defend mutant kind. And with that knowledge, Xavier uses his telepathy to sense if there's any intelligent life associated with that craft. What he detects, however, is Thanos, who, with his great power and mental resistance, as seen in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos wants to eradicate half of all life on the planet, and to do so he wants to use the Phoenix Force. He's heard of the Phoenix Force through its tales of planetary destruction, again as seen in Dark Phoenix, and he wants to harness that power for himself. So now the X-Men are on high alert. Xavier, due to the strength of Thanos' mind, has his powers kind of nullified from that point forward. With that, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men unite, as well as attempting to gather all of the greatest heroes from across the planet, including the likes of Blade, the Vampire Hunter, Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, Spider-Man, New York's Protector, the Incredible Hulk, Elektra, Ghost Rider, and so on. The smartest among the heroes, being Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Reed Richards, Charles Xavier, formulate a plan, that being using Xavier's connection with Thanos to draw the Mad Titan onto their preferred battlefield, that being the Romanian stronghold seen in Ghost Rider 2, where Johnny Blaze once defeated the Devil. Despite the fact that Thanos is looking for Jean Grey and would hope to extract the power from her, they do bring her along in the Blackbird, with Susan Storm using her powers to cloak the craft. Jean, if she were to use her still volatile powers, that being the Phoenix, despite the fact that Thanos could very well get her power is also the best chance of beating these enemies if the heroes are to lose. So with that said, Thanos sends his cannon fodder out first, that being the Outriders. But first, let me take a minute to talk to you about Squarespace. On the site, you can host your own videos. It has unmatched blogging tools to share any experiences you believe are worth putting out there, from photos, videos, and personal stories It has it all. You can also see the raw numbers, how many people resonate with your stories, and use tools such as keywords and other market strategy methods to get your product seen. And I'm speaking from experience, as I have actually used the service myself to make a website showcasing my personal favorite cryptids. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/crisis, 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. And now, back to the video. To tackle the power scaling of these pre-MCU Marvel heroes, I have the Chadwick here.
Yo guys, what's up?
Everybody kind of scales to each other. Nobody's like blitzing one another. The MCU, based on some new calculations, they would all land in the sort of sub-relativistic category. Characters like the X-Men, there are multiple statements from the X-Men novels, and even in Dark Phoenix, we see that Cyclops' beam functions like a laser or like a beam of light and is stated to be such. Now, I know in the comics, his eyes are a portal to a dimension of pure kinetic energy. The movies seem to take liberties with that. These are not the comic versions. So they all kind of roughly scale in that like relative to light speed category, at least most of the X-Men. So Chad, we have the Outriders here. We know from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they're pretty much useless. Captain America, Winter Soldier with guns, all of these people, random Wakandans, are able to deal with them. So who do you think is adequately equipped to deal with these Outriders, and who do you think maybe has the biggest chance of being taken out of the fight this early on?
Quicksilver, who is probably better equipped to deal with the Outriders than the Black Order, just because how fast he moves. He'd be better suited to getting rid of the cannon fire off the field faster than focusing on the stronger adversaries.
Yeah, Quicksilver can run at, speeds similar to lightning, if not far faster. Quicksilver is also physically pretty powerful. He was able to kind of ping pong ball Apocalypse around. Apocalypse at that point should honestly still be one of the strongest mutants ever. Honestly, Quicksilver might solo the Outriders, to be honest, just because his travel speed, him running, he's just so much faster than even I think anybody in Infinity War, at least. For the most part, they are pretty adequately dealt with, like I said, by Wakandan soldiers. Even characters like Daredevil and Elektra, who are going to kind of be the weakest of these guys, they kind of only scale to Kingpin from the Daredevil movie, who was, his best feat is like snapping people's necks. So just barely above what like an average human can withstand or output. Moving on, we have now the Black Order. We have Corvus Glaive, who's kind of the like sneaky assassin type guy. Why don't you talk about Corvus Glaive and maybe some of the people who would be cool to see him fight?
Wolverine, a pretty fun match to see, just because his bones are intertwined with obviously the strongest metal in his universe. And Corvus Glaive, that metal can not only stab through Vision's body, which is made of vibranium. Wolverine is basically getting cut up by Corvus, and Corvus kind of goes for like a killing blow, but then realizes that his glaive can't bypass the adamantium. In Last Stand, we see that the adamantium can resist Jean's like Dark Phoenix power, and in the novel, it stated to like render things just non-existent, and she was struggling to like destroy the adamantium. We decided on the idea that Cyclops, very similar to how Wolverine beats Baraka-Pul from X-Men Origins, Cyclops kind of like heats up the adamantium, and we see that heated adamantium is better than standard adamantium shown in the Wolverine, but Silver Samurai has like the heated adamantium blade, and he can just easily cut through Wolverine's claws. Not only is Wolverine just at that point able to cut through the glaive, but ultimately just finishes Corvus off.
With that said, and moving on to Proxima, because she's able to fight both Black Widow and Okoye at the same time. Elektra kind of stands out as that, highly skilled female kind of assassin. Even just per the fact that Proxima can kind of deal with two highly skilled fighters at the same time, Elektra isn't going to fare too well here. Storm could kind of pull a Scarlet Witch, and I think would probably come in and sweep the dub from under Proxima.
Ebony Maw is probably the best example of a glass cannon, in the sense that like we see that with his telekinesis, he can damage Iron Man, contend against Doctor Strange. when he launches those rocks at Doctor Strange and Wong, they redirect him with the portals, and one of them kind of like tags Moore's head and it damages him. A combination of Blade and Daredevil would be a fun matchup to see. Daredevil has these like nutty extrasensory capabilities. Blade has like achieved this mode similar to like the flow state. I feel like we could see Daredevil just bobbing and weaving on Moore to get close enough, and Blade just being so well centered can like synchronize his movements alongside Daredevil's. Someone like Moore, like if you see like Infinity War when he's annoyed after he gets hit a few times, you could probably have one of the stronger characters come in and ultimately beat him. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man could come in and like knock him out, because Moore should ultimately beat Blade and Daredevil, I think, if he gets serious.
You have like Proxima and Corvus, who are fighting super soldiers, and then you have Cole Obsidian kind of ragdolling peak Iron Man at the time, who in an earlier armor was able to take pretty much like a mountain's worth of rock blowing up on top of him. As the resident Tobey Spider-Man expert, we see in Infinity War that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is able to deal with Cole. He's able to block strikes from Cole that were designed to put Iron Man down. While in this scenario it is Tobey before No Way Home, it's more or less been the case the entire time that Tobey is in that same level of power. There's no reason for Tom Holland at that point to be fighting characters like Doc Ock or Green Goblin in a less motivated way than he was fighting Cole Obsidian in Infinity War. In fact, he's kind of casual when fighting Cole Obsidian compared to Doc Ock or Green Goblin, who he's pretty serious against in both encounters. And of course, these are characters who Tobey Maguire was able to defeat. He would actually put up a better one against Cole than Tom Holland did.
In the first movie, when Reed Richards is like testing out all their powers, Johnny Storm, he started like getting so hot that Reed says, "You were basically approaching supernova," basically destroyed the planet's atmosphere. When he uses the supernova at the end on Doctor Doom, Sue Storm's able to like contain it with her force fields. Now Doctor Doom does more or less basically tank the supernova. Thing who can like physically contend with Doctor Doom for a while, and then Reed kind of restrains Ben. But yeah, they are like ridiculously overpowered, and they're massively stronger than what tier Cole Obsidian's in.
Thanos, of course, he doesn't have any stones. He doesn't have the Space Stone, Reality Stone, Power Stone, etc. It's just base Thanos. He himself still scales off the same feats that Cole Obsidian scales off to. Thor is able to one-shot Iron Man, and Thanos is able to pretty much dominate that same Thor. It's really not too good for Thanos. I mean, you have everything that Chad mentioned about the Fantastic Four. Thanos is in the small country territory, whereas the Fantastic Four are threats to the entire human race, the whole planet, every animal, the ecosystems. So, and from there, it only kind of gets worse with characters like the Hulk.
He's called the most powerful creature to ever walk the Earth, so he should be in the multi-continental ranges than that. And there's just more statements like that, like he's impossibly strong, there's no limits to his power or destructive capabilities. So ultimately, using those statements, you should be able to, at least in the context of this little hypothetical, it should be fine to like place him in the ballpark of like the Fantastic Four.
If he even was able to get some measure of Jean Grey's power, there are still ways for the heroes to win in the form of Ghost Rider's penance stare. It doesn't really matter how durable you are, how strong you are. If there is evil in your heart, which certainly Thanos, somebody who is going around slaughtering millions of people throughout the universe, he definitely fit the parameters of at least Ghost Rider's idea of evil. It would pretty much banish his soul to hell at that point and leave him kind of as a husk, as we see in the Ghost Rider movies. He could also literally send you to hell with his chain, as seen in Ghost Rider 2. And then, of course, that's notwithstanding the fact that Jean Grey could just genuinely try to scrap with Thanos.
When it comes to original timeline Jean, in terms of sheer power, she should at least be planetary. As in a vision of her own powers, she's shown bringing whole worlds to an end. She also sees entire dimensions end too. There is another statement later on that says she could transcend all rules and realities with her powers, though it was also stated that the entity was the spark that brought life to the universe. Thanos should be well within the small country tier. This is because he beat Hulk and awakened Thor at the beginning of Infinity War, Thor, when he fought Hela, was able to one-shot a portion of the Bifrost Bridge, whereas pre-awakened Thor took 10 strikes to destroy just one portion during the events of Thor 1. So if we take this 10 times multiplier and apply it to Thor's best feat before Ragnarok, which is the feat of him destroying Sokovia, then it would take him from large island to well within small country.
Thanos is pretty much lucky that he fought the actual MCU, where he was at least able to get one W off before getting put down. Whereas here, he doesn't really make it that much farther past Earth's atmosphere, to be honest. So, thanks, Chad, for coming along.
Always glad to be on and spit some scaling, especially when it's characters that I have. I put some time and thought into scaling.
Absolutely. And if anyone in the comments maybe would like to see this scenario played out a little bit more in a narrative sense, we kind of tried to balance it between more or less canon scaling of these heroes and how they would genuinely fare against Thanos from the MCU. But with all that said, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.